There is no Christmas time without these cookies for me. It's my grandma's recipe. I absolutely adore them. They are my favorite Christmas cookies. They're a little bit of work, but it's totally worth it because the smell is just heavenly. Let's do them.
The very first thing to do is to roast the hazelnuts. For this, you should definitely take the whole hazelnuts with their shells because they really have the most aroma and give the cookies its wonderful nutty flavor. The nuts are roasted with the shell until the shell bursts open and the nuts have got some color. Then comes probably the most annoying part, and that is that you have to peel the nuts now. For this, I pour them onto a dish towel. With it, you can remove most of the shells. Watch out, the shells strain, so better take an old cloth for it. Since the shell is quite bitter, I take each nut again in the hand and rub the remaining shell off as much as possible. This seems quite time consuming, but as I said, it's worth it for every bite of cookie. You can now chop the hazelnuts with a knife. I make it simple and take the food processor until I have a mixture of chopped and ground pieces left. And believe me, the smell when you open the lid is just indescribably delicious. Now I get to work on the dough. For this, I take flour and sift it into a bowl. Then I add the cornstarch, which of course gets sifted as well. Likewise, again the powdered sugar. Through the sifting, the cookie becomes nice and fine in taste. Then add a bit of baking powder and a pinch of salt. The hazelnuts should now no longer be warm, so they do not warm up the dough too much. Package of vanilla sugar also comes in, and of course, how can it be otherwise? Butter. All exact ingredients are of course as always in the description. Now I stir the dough together with a standing mixer. The original recipe says to quickly chop the dough on a board, but that makes too much mess for me, so I find it easier to do the whole thing in the machine. Now I prepare the dough for the final thaler shape. For this, the dough must be formed into 4 rolls. To do this, I divide the large rolls into 4 pieces as equally in size as possible. When rolling, you have to be careful to not work air into the roll, otherwise you will end up with holes in your cookies. So here keep pressing the roll together so it stays a compact dough and the roll is as even as possible. My rolls have a diameter of 2.5 to 3 centimeters, which is roughly 1 inch, and are no longer than 30 centimeters or 11.8 inches. You can of course make the roll thicker, but the cookies will also rise while baking due to the baking powder. Once you have 4 fairly even rolls, you can add the cocoa coating. For this, I mix baking cocoa and sugar and take some milk and then brush each roll with it. Not too much, but not too little either. Just so that the roll is a little moist so that the cocoa sugar mixture can stick well to the roll. Then the cocoa sugar mixture comes over it and I spread the mixture so that the entire roll is covered with it. I divide my rolls now already to fit into a container because the prepared dough rolls must first be well chilled. I do this again for the 3 remaining rolls. You can alternatively roll the dough rolls in the dry mixture. But all in all, this makes quite a mess, but this step is an absolute must because the cocoa coating is incredibly important for the taste. The slight bitter taste of the cocoa goes quite wonderfully with this gorgeous sweet cookie. As I said, I then leave the dough rolls overnight in the refrigerator so they become nice and hard and you can cut them wonderfully on the next day when they are even chilled. I always cut slices about 1 centimeter, which is about 0.4 inches, and then I put them on a baking sheet with proper spacing, since the cookies also rise again. You can bake 2 trays at a time at 180 degrees C or 400 degrees Fahrenheit with a fan for 8 minutes. Once the cookies are out, you can carefully lift them off the tray with a spatula and put them on a cooling rack.
Yeah, you probably recognize them. Today we have Swiss nut thaler, so in German they're called Schweizer Nussthaler because they are my absolutely favorite cookie recipe for Christmas time.
And the thaler, it's because they look like a coin.
Yeah, exactly. So they're round and they have a different color on the side. So this is often also the case for those kind of coins. Yeah, I don't know why Swiss. I have this recipe from my grandma, so it's kind of a family heritage recipe, and yeah, I do them every year. Yeah, let's taste it.
Same as every year, but same deliciousness. So what I like is this, not dusty, but
Yeah, crumbly kind of. It's, there's no egg in it, so it's not very dense. It's more, yeah, it falls apart in your mouth.
yeah. Which makes it, the big disadvantage is that if you send it by post, sometimes you just get dust delivered.
Yeah, that's true. That's not the best to send to friends, but my friends always expect me and ask, Intra, are you doing the cookies again? And I mean, it's a good sign because everybody loves them. And the nutty flavor, it's just so amazing with these cookies. And it's totally worth the time to roast the nuts.
And you have these little pieces of nut inside sometimes, so it's because it's not evenly cutted, the nuts inside. And I like them. You just can put them in your mouth once at a time.
Yeah, but of course it's very important to use butter. I mean, we are team butter, so of course we have to use butter. But this is also, of course, delivering the flavor here. So there's no margarine. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. You can write a comment if you tried them and how you like them. And subscribe to the channel to no longer miss any new videos.